Renolds Yirenky, that's my name. Was invited here by Judge to talk about cyber risk and cybersecurity and how the two come together in the risk management strategy. Been with the Fed for 4 years now, going my 5th year. Prior to that, with JP Morgan Chase in Columbus. Did some field gig around Columbus before moving, joining JP. Educational background, I'm currently doing my PhD in cybersecurity with the University of Cumberland in Kentucky. Have a postgraduate certificate from Harvard, again in cybersecurity, and a master's in information system management as well. I started my educational career in engineering, so I have a geological engineering background as well. And I think the group seems very enthusiastic for me, and maybe probably might see me after my presentation as well. So, and since Ty is entreating us to return, I probably might return.
All right. Well, with that, I will turn the floor over to you. Thank you. We look forward to hearing. It sounds like you have been doing a lot of work in cybersecurity. Education alludes to that. So
yes.
we're looking forward to your presentation. Frank.
Thank you, Brenda.
Frank.
Yep. Oh, it's on. Look and see if you see the screen.
And good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
And I'm excited to be here. So, for those who don't like cybersecurity and don't know why I'm here, again, I think you know who to blame, right? I told you why I'm here. Josh invited me, and I'm excited about this opportunity to come talk to people about cybersecurity. I think I will start my presentation with the caveat. I've been told or been informed that I talk too fast when I get excited. And since I'm excited about cybersecurity, I might talk fast. So please draw my attention to it and let me slow down so that we can, and I want it to be interactive as much as possible. This is not me presenting or lecturing. It's more around an engagement. Let's discuss this to make it more exciting. So start with my background. I think I did talk a little bit about my background. I have over 15 years of experience in IT, focusing cyber risk for the past 10 to 12 years now. Spent most of the time in financial institutions as well. I'm a strong believer that outside the NSA, the National Security Agencies, I believe the financial institution is the next space that is challenging when it comes to cybersecurity. So that's kept me over there. So maybe after that, I probably might go to the state agencies to what, I don't know about that.
Will it pay you as much as industry?
Probably as a consultant, maybe.
Okay.
I have a few certifications, and a few of them, for the security related certification, that's what I have, and I have a few IT related certifications as well, most of them in the database field. So let's start with what is cybersecurity anyways. Cybersecurity pretty much is ensuring these 5 tenets, right? The confidentiality, integrity, availability, and non-repudiation, as well as authentication. You will most of the time see the CIA triad associated with cybersecurity. Much is not talked about the bottom 2 piece of it. So most of the time when you see cybersecurity, it's ensuring the CIA. That's what most people try to reference it to. So what is confidentiality? Confidentiality ensuring that data, unauthorized access is not granted to people who are not supposed to see the data. So unauthorized disclosure, that is what confidentiality is about. So when someone's medical records, if I'm not supposed to say it, breach the confidentiality of that particular data or whoever record that information belongs to. The next is integrity. Integrity has got to do with system changes that is not been authorized. So any unauthorized changes to system data, if a system is sending a 500 check to Frank and someone interjects a man in the middle attack or whatever and makes it a 5,000, that is integrity. And that's what we got to safeguard as well as part of cybersecurity. Availability is another tenant of it, which availability got to do with system got to be available. Right now we need this presentation to go on. There's a recording going on, so if this all of a sudden somebody, if it's connected to Internet of Things and someone shut it down with a DDoS attack, for instance, that has affected the availability portion of cybersecurity. And non-repudiation got to do with ensuring the assurance that someone cannot deny he did not do something. So that is what non-repudiation is about. So when I digitally sign a message to Frank, I'll be using Yola Frank, and with something, with an insult or something per se, and all of a sudden I digitally sign it to you, I cannot deny that I did not sign it because it takes, I'm the only one who can digitally sign those messages that was sent to you. Or if you access a system with your credential, your ID, password, all things being equal, apart from your passwords being stolen, you are the only one who have access to the system to perform that task. So if it's logged and the log says, oh, Reynolds deleted these files, it's supposed to ensure non-repudiation because my ID is tied to the activity that was performed. So that is non-repudiation. And we have authentication where ensuring that the right people have access to the system, not people who are not supposed to have record. That is, so these are the tenets of cybersecurity. So whenever there is a cybersecurity incident, it is tackling one of these or all of these 5 tenets. So this is the interesting landscape of the cybersecurity space right now. Pretty much, all we know about is what is publicly available as an attack. So, but then what is missing is the majority of attacks are unknown. And that is the scary part about this whole thing, where management strategy to tackle cybersecurity always focus on the known attacks, where we don't proactively come up with a strategy to deal with the unknown attack. And that has been my PhD thesis. That's what I'm trying to work towards, being able to predict attacks before it happens. And I think that is where we should go. Because we've all been, all of these years, we've all been trailing and kind of following, trying to catch up with the bad guys. The bad guy figure it out, then we're trying to close it, and they figure the next step, and we're trying to catch up. We need to take the step ahead. We got to know where they're going to be, what's going to be their next move, for us to be there before the exploiters, before we try to play catch up. And that is where.
So you're trying to be predictive.
Trying to be predictive using like AI. It's like right now we have powerful tools available. Data are all available, right? So we can do. I mean, it's doable. That's what I believe, right? So it's hard job, and that is the only way we can. Again, we cannot stop them, but then we got to be wait for us to really try and slow down a little bit. That's the best. So I like this picture because it gives me what I really wanted to do to ensure that we get to the unseen ones than just focusing on the ones, the known attacks.
How do you prioritize? Excuse me, if you're looking at non-public attacks, potential attacks, right? So you're looking at your vulnerabilities, right? So how do you prioritize which vulnerabilities are most likely to be attacked first, so that you can get there first?
Maybe, I don't know, along like someone, I'll probably want to say a question, if I don't, you can raise that again.
That's probably part of this thesis. This is the secret stuff.
Oh,
But then, I think it's more than just vulnerability, right? And that is where we gotta, most organizations have their password being 8 character, 9 character. Have we thought about now availability of powerful PCs? It's easy to crack those passwords. Why do we wait for it to be cracked and exploited before we try to change it or do like, we got to think, we got to be proactive. That's all, right? Rather than trying to play catch up, right? And again, I know majority of it is more around vulnerabilities. We cannot do without it. It's part of the process that we live in, right? we design code, millions of codes for one application. There's always going to be vulnerabilities. But then it's more around the mindset, right? Trying to predict the mindset of how to explore, how people want to take advantage of the system. And it might include vulnerability management as well. A lot of things will go into the magic sauce to come up with these predictions. But I think when I go further with risk management, we'll talk about how you prioritize vulnerabilities and all that.
Do you look at the characteristics of the threats that are out there? Let's say you got the armies and they're attacking, and part of prediction is knowing who is attacking and what techniques are they using. They haven't gotten you yet, but
yeah. It could be coming to you. Something like that. That is how you gotta have that mindset in dealing with that.
I'd be looking forward to seeing what you come up with.
Yes, that's about 2 years from here, so there's a long way to go. So we have the threat source. I have them broken down into 5 different actor groups, I call them. You have the insiders, where, funny enough, this is very high on the recent trend of attacks that is happening, but we tend to have, my friend will call it, unfounded trust, right? You just feel because they are inside, we tend to trust them. Again, when I was with my former job, after the Snowden incident, we had a zero tolerance for contractors with admin assets. Like, it's not allowed. All of a sudden, we got what's that?
Snowden.
Oh, Snowden.
Snowden. Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
sure, yeah. So we took all contractors with privileged access. There was zero tolerance, right? And again, it's more reactive again, right? And that is the thing. But then what will happen when what about if it's an insider? It's not just a contractor, but then again, we tend to have downplayed the insider threat. But then when they happen, they're the ones that are very, very powerful because they have access to the system. They blend very well with your traffic and in their web, and so you probably don't see them a lot. You have the normal criminals who want to steal your social security or credit card and go shopping and spend on their girlfriends, boyfriends. Sorry, go ahead.
So how can you be reactive against that? Because it seems like, okay, for instance, you cut off all the contractors, but if you have somebody, a disgruntled employee, and they feel like they're about to quit and they're about to plan something, do you have AI tools, for instance, that kind of can start seeing, noticing things?
I think you're going to where I'm going with my thesis, where AI should be doing something. Like, these data are there. These machines are powerful. They can think. They can help you with mitigating some of these risks. But we have to be mindful. Like, these, with risk, you cannot eliminate them, right? And especially in this cyberspace, it is more around, it's not about if, it's about when this will happen. But then your response, you got to have a responsive strategy or playbook to tackle this, rather than wait till it happens. Then you want to figure out what's my next step, right? You got to play all these scenarios out and see how you're going to be tackling this along the line.
Do you know of maybe something you can share, like for instance, where you're at currently? Do you have something like that? Or is it just you really just wait and fire? Because you can kind of do simple things like figuring out if somebody's plugging in a USB and downloading more than 10 gigabytes.
We have all these strategies. Most organizations do, right? Where we have the insider threats, right? We have tools like Exhibit, which correlates my activity. Like Renolds comes in at 7 o'clock. He logs into XY systems. I usually don't print 1,000 records. I usually don't spam. So it picks my signature and build my profile. So my profile is already built. So whatever I do abnormally, and usually there's a spike in these kind of activities, whoever want to do, because your normal activity is not fraudulent driven, right? So the moment you're trying to do anything malicious, disgruntled employee, there will be a spike in your activities. You'll be sending more files to your home, to your Gmail account, maybe coming in early so that your boss will not know you're doing this. So all these physical security, all these data sources got to come together and correlate to really start flagging, hey, this is high profile, right? And again, there are systems that will, if somebody's about to get kicked out, that record is available, so they start monitoring your traffic and say, and there are some instances, depending on your level of level of the company, some of your assets are even taken out from the moment they tell you you're going to be kicked out in 2 weeks or whatever it is. So, and some are even kicked out straight away. Because I know,
I know
former,
yeah, kind of the strangest thing that happened when I was retired. I had access to all kinds of stuff, and at midnight, it just all went away. I felt lost.
yeah.
Especially working in a company for 30 years.
So,
It was quick. Yes,
yeah,
sir.
most of these high security roles and big companies, usually even if incident like this happen, they're going to maybe downsize or whatever. They probably will let you go 1 month, take your assets, but you're still going to be paid. They say, well, we take your assets right now, but you still have that period of time to, again, it's to mitigate some of these insider threat kind of attack. We have the state actors, so that's the big one, and that's where the future is, or the future threats is. Again, we saw what happened with our past election, and I think it's still being, the Reddit is out there, whether it was.
Get attacked by them? The Russians are supposed to be really, they
No,
really are.
I can tell you for like my former company was a very big, huge, actually one of the biggest in well, I mentioned already, JP Morgan Chase. And at the point in time we had a training, and Jamie Dimon, who was the CEO, told us, and we have information that there are actors in Russia who try to attack us every day. And it's like, we got to be proactive. We got to be one step ahead of them every time. Because all they do, wake up every morning trying to penetrate that network. And I can tell you, JP is one of the financial institutions that have the best security within the country. Sorry, go ahead.
I say my company works with the NSA, and I've been to Russia a few times. If you're good enough to hack, you're good enough to cover your tracks, and the Russians aren't that good. It was the Chinese that did it. They're the ones that got into Hillary's server. And you'll see that next week, or 2 weeks from now, if you go to DerbyCon. You'll see the emails. I mean, it's just really neat to see this. You're in an exciting field.
Yeah. So again, the thing about, and I don't want to get too detailed in cybersecurity, I'm trying to keep it high level, but since Jay brought it over here, one thing that we struggle to do is attribution, right? So in cyber attack, attribution is trying to find out who did it. It's difficult. It can be done, but do you want to spend your time to really find out who did it, especially if it's not related to the nation state? Like, of course, we want to find out who, if there is any hack with the DNC servers. But the point is, you finding out who did it, again, it's challenging. Because the point is, it goes with signatures of how files are hashed. There are a lot of things that really point out to how this is from North Korea, this is from Russia, this is from China. Like, we have all that ability, but then attribution is always a challenge. I think I wrote a paper on cyber attribution, and that is a challenge in the cyberspace.
Talking of state actors, I don't think it's just the foreign governments. Because if you remember, I don't remember what the stand for TOR. Remember that was by Navy originally, before it was commercialized, or given to the public.
Yes.
Now, what was the intention of Navy? I mean, that's our government. Why would you develop something like that? And then release it to the public, which now they use against us. So what was the government looking for?
No, but one thing you got to understand that the government have the most sophisticated cybersecurity engine, like in the world. Like what you think you know about cybersecurity, they know way ahead. Tor was used to kind of match traffic, and it's for a good intent. The intent of designing it was good, but again, just like all aspects of cybersecurity, there's always a good and bad side to everything, right? Right, Internet of Things, there's powerful PCs available. Hackers are using this cloud, that is happening. Companies are enjoying it because it's helping them with scalability, cutting down on their expenditure on IT and everything. But then that's the same tool that these bad guys are using because the resources there. They have powerful CPUs, powerful to do all these bad things. So that is the challenge about cybersecurity. We want the new fine stuff, but then it comes with this downside because the bad guy uses the same thing against us.
The question though is, how do they, for example, people like me and you, ordinary people don't have access to these deep security issues or vulnerabilities or how to get access to these things.
Yeah.
But the bad guys have, they seem to have easier way.
It's not easy because trying to get it and see because there's a dark web, right? There's a lot of things that you can get on the dark web, and it's easy. But then again, there's people use Tor and stuff like that to hide their identity, and there's Bitcoin to help in transactions. So it's easy if you know how to do it. I don't think now it's easy to get access to sophisticated weapon to do any cyber attack.
Oh, that's scary.
That is the scary part about it.
That's another question.
Chris Johnson?
For most people, is do you want to? Because you want to do business. And the last thing that you want to think about, I don't know. This is me. I'm kind of a straight person. Is hacking somebody. It just it boggles my mind, and maybe because I'm old. But I would not spend a whole lot of time on Tor trying to use tools to hack something. It's just easy enough to do the regular stuff.
I wish all the bad guys think like you.
Now, if you look at it from an analogy point of view, for example, I know people build guns. If I want to fortify my house, I will know the kind of guns so that I can protect myself against those kind of guns. That's where I'm going with this. That okay, we know we cannot get to this stuff. Then how can I protect myself if I don't even know what is out or what people are capable of doing?
Okay, so no, that's why organizations have red team exercise and pen test, penetration testing. These are guys who have access to protect. They have access to this information that you talk about.
Okay.
I mean, most organizations, big organizations, they have people who have access to the dark web. Whatever is happening in there, whatever communication that's happening over there, they plug themselves in there. The government do the same. They are plugged in. That's why they can predict what is happening there. They can predict, hey, this organization is about to hack. Because they discuss. So they are plugged in there. It's just like undercover.
Thank you.
Yeah, right.
I don't think it's easy to hack into companies. I think it's just such a moving target. It's just harder to protect yourself from all the different attacks. Like you mentioned, you might be aware of all the guns that are out there and try to protect yourself from all those guns. But what if one day you just left the door open? So that's what it is, I think. In my opinion, it's not just the infrastructure, the IT infrastructure that you have to worry about. A lot of these attacks start from a human error. You go to a conference and then they get your email from the conference and they send you a phishing email and you think, oh, it's that presentation from the conference. You download it, next thing you know, you create a backdoor. So the cybersecurity team could only do so much if they're not educating the human employees that are inside doing all the day-to-day work. So I think that's...
All of this costs money.
And that's a good point, Ranula, right? Ramallah, yeah. So about 90%, I think the data is like 91% of cyber attacks, of all cyber attacks, came through phishing exercise. Phishing is human. So pretty much 9% that is left that they can do without a human intervention. So think about it. So to your point, that's what it is. Again, the complexity of the network, how we're building our network now, is key factor. People go into Internet of Things. That is an easy way to penetrate any network. So all these complex things that we're connecting to network, whereby before, Frank probably might know better, where networking is about one LAN with just straightforward, wired, nothing. How do you cannot penetrate. apart from that, you have hubs, and those are less secure, but then the intent of them were not designed for security anyways. But then it's simple but secure. But now we want these, people are driving, I think I was at the DEFCON, and I don't know if you were there, where they control the car. So I think it was Ford Mondeo or something. They remotely hacked into a car to control the car.
Not even self-driving cars, they can remotely hack into.
No, it wasn't a self-driving car. It was
No, just regular cars.
Yeah,
There's a workshop in Louisville on the 4th. You'll be able to see that. Where
no, I saw that that's conference, and that's like you driving your car and someone can just take over and you don't have no control over it anymore.
Wow.
I mean, we enjoy all these nice shiny stuff, but they have risk implications as well.
So I have a question. Is the cybersecurity field, actually, to his point and to his point, does it go beyond just the programming side of things? By which I mean, using his analogy, you cannot protect your house against every single gun out there, right? It's impossible, one, to know all the weapons, and as soon as you do, they will make a new one. So there's that, and then that's just not practical. And to his point, and actually to yours, a lot of cybersecurity vulnerability is driven by human error. So the cybersecurity as a field, does it address that, or does it strictly come from, we try to fix the technical stuff, the stupidity is on you? Go ahead.
No, you cannot take that approach because then you're going to fail, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
Again, so cybersecurity has shifted.
Okay.
I mean, when I entered, that's when it was dying, where it's about people think they can protect their network from somebody getting in. We've realized that, look, your network is either being breached or it's been breached and you don't know about it, right? Like everybody, so the point is you cannot protect it. So you gotta have a strategy where I probably will go over that on some of the slides on how you manage, you deal with incidents where you gotta have a plan, not just trying to protect it, but to detect it as soon as possible, response to it and response strategies and all that.
One more thing, Ben, I just want to ask you this question. I heard somebody made a comment the other day that the third world war that is coming, it's not going to be with guns and all that. It's going to be cybersecurity.
Yes.
How do you agree with that?
I totally agree with that. I mean, it's happening, right? I mean, those connected war, so we call it connected war, where people pick guns, and it's being performed with cyber. I mean, Estonia, one of these countries, East European countries, the country was shut down. Everything. And that's what most of these countries that have been attacked or has been invaded by, in quote, Russia, that is the strategy they do. They shut your network down, your ATM machine is not working, your gas station is not pumping, there's no electricity running. Just imagine in the US, your phone is not working, no light. All these are connected to the grid. It's all our grid. Our critical infrastructure is connected to the internet.
Thing with the lights that wouldn't happen.
Is that happen?
Really?
Is that right?
You think it's already happened multiple times?
We lost power from
Not for
this
Duke Energy.
country all the way to Ghana.
Okay.
We got that covered.
So, so that, to your point, that is why the next war, if it's going to happen, it's going to have some cyber, if it should happen at all.
It's already happened. It's easy to
That's
steal
what I'm
our
saying.
stuff. China steals our stuff. Why would they buy it?
And the spinach, that is what is happening. Like, whether you're ready or you want to accept it or not, to Jay's point, it is happening now. That is the new era. I think the president has made a few reference of building it.
And don't count on our government.
It's still our president. Space Army, but
Space Force.
Space Force.
But it's got nothing to do with cyber. I think he should spend his time to focus on tackling cyber threats than Space Force.
I think probably the most advanced one I heard of is Israel and Iran with nuclear reactors.
Stuxnet.
So Stuxnet, that's the US. Well,
I think that's the most advanced one I heard of.
Was that great?
That's
so,
interesting.
and you can imagine when Stuxnet happened, right? That's very, and
Exactly.
again, to your point, when you're talking about the cyber tools available to the government, these are that was when you talk about nation state attack. Stuxnet, complicated malware, you have your network all locked down. Nobody have access to you. You think you're secured, and again, success sells is that it's nothing. It's not much.
That was a few years ago.
What?
That was a few years ago.
Success?
Yeah.
No, that's been years. I think over 10 years.
Oh,
now.
yeah, that's what he said.
Like 10, 15 years. Yeah. It's been that. That's a long time. I think Saddam Hussein's era, like those days. It's not new at all. And that was, if they were able to do that at that time, you can imagine what can happen now. I think we spent a lot of time on this slide. We have the activists. How am I doing on time?
You've got about another 10 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. You've got about 15 more minutes.
Okay, then we'll have to. So we have the activists, which is the group that for social cause and everything, and we have the individuals as well. We have the vulnerabilities, how exposed we are based on some of these. Again, we talked about the interconnectability of our network now. Everything is connected, and so it's the more complex your network, the more vulnerable your network becomes. And the rapid change in the Internet of Things, traffic, all these are some of the vulnerabilities of our network that the bad guys takes advantage of as well. And we have the risk associated with it, intellectual property loss, your brand being degraded. We have the regulatory impact as well, customer suit, company devaluations, and all that stuff. Again, this news, we hear this every day. Like, there is not even a single day that I go to work that I will not have any news on cyber incidents. It's crazy, it's scary, but that's what we sign up for. We got to protect against all these. And if you look at some of the data, you have the target incident, which is about 40 to 110 million records that was lost. The every fast we had about 140 million records. JP Morgan, I think, had about 80 million plus. Home Depot 56. And I talked about it, 91% of cyber attacks started with a phishing email as well. Cost of cyber incident, so this is one more latest 2017 records saying a cyber incident cost organization $11.7 million. And there's been a rise in 22.7 with an average of 130 breach a year. And percentage increase in the numbers as well.
That sounds low. 11.7 million?
Yeah. For each cyber incident.
Oh, for each crime?
Yes.
Okay, I got it.
So Equifax incident is going to cost them.
Okay.
This is going to be more than this, but this is an average.
But there's a lot of them, so it grows.
Yeah. So again, I think we talked about this somehow when I was talking about those various actors on the cybercrime, the intention as well as the consequences of some of them. You have the strip kits. This is the individual or amateur. Someone sits at home, he learns a new way of hacking, and he starts making noise on the internet. That is the first one. You have the activists who try for their own social cause, and they provide that as well. You have the cybercrime that steal the social security, your credit card information, your intellectual properties and stuff like that. Again, the consequences are commercial financial loss to the company reputation. You have the insider, which is pretty much, again, they know where the trade secret is, they know where your intellectual properties are, and it's easy for them to perpetrate this kind of attack. And you have the nation state attacks, which does the sophisticated kind of attack. And you can see the threat sophistication, again, increases with along the line with the nation state being the most powerful one.
Insiders are more sophisticated than criminals?
Yeah, so if with someone with the cyber, with the skill set, like, assuming I am with my company I work with my skill set,
Gotcha.
I'm more powerful to do damage than coming
And
from
an external
outside
risk, okay.
with the same skill set. Again, this is more how we're trying to break down kind of attacks and these various attacks in the cyberspace. We have the basic ones who do this basic attack, and we have the advanced one, which is anything above the amateurish attack, as well as in between the nation state ones. They're more like the ones that steal credit card information and stuff like that. And the maturity level of their technical abilities is laid down as well.
What's ABC?
Advanced persistent threats. So, I know we've talked about all this gloomy side about cybersecurity. Yet still, businesses cannot, they cannot afford to not do business. They still have to do business. They still have to live with this stress. These stress are coming. There's a lot. The risk to the company is a lot. There's so much noise. They need a strategy of filtering what risks do I need to attack or do I need to deal with, and which ones can I keep or which ones can I outsource or let an insurance company or something deal with. So this is what cyber risk management comes in, is to help the company manage the risk, the risk to the organization. So when we talk about risk, there are two components of it. Outside the security space or IT space, we looked at the likelihood and the impact, right? What's the likelihood of this event happening, as well as what is the impact if it should happen? When you move it to the security space, we looked at it from the likelihood piece is driven by the threat as well as the vulnerability. So there can be a vulnerability available if there is no threat to that vulnerability. Is zero. There's no risk, right? Because the vulnerability doesn't constitute risk until it has been exploited. So that is the components that drive the likelihood part of the cyber risk. And of course, the impact will always stay as impact. When the risk manifests, what is the cost to the organization? And the outcome is, of course, the risk. So why do we do risk management? So these are the reasons why risk management is now picking up in most organizations. Most regulations are coming up, and it's a requirement for them to have a risk management program in the organization. And most MSA agreements that organization goes or contract that they engage with their third parties, we expect them to have a risk management program or the cyber risk management program to help them mitigate their risk exposures. And it's just good business. You gotta have a risk management program in place to identify what are my exposures, to make decisions based on the risk factors that you are faced with, right? There's no point if you live. We had this hurricane in the Florida or North Carolina area. If I'm building over there, you got to understand the risk associated with that. Well, their storm apparently is 1 in 100 years. They've never had something like that. So you look at the likelihood piece, 1 in 100 years, but then if it happened, what is the impact of it? So you can make business decision on whether should we locate it over there, how many people do we want to have at that location. All these decisions are driven by your risk assessment that you perform. And again, we talked about it. Organizations are now cyber targets. Whether you like it or not, your organization will be hacked. If it's not been hacked before, then you don't know it's been hacked. Right? So all organizations are now a target. So you need a risk management program to help you mitigate that risk. And again, aligning your risk with your risk and compliance, again, with your IT resources as well as your business decision, is another reason why you want to do your risk management. Which business is more risky than what? You got to do that alignment, and again, to protect your reputation as well.
Now this could take all of your money.
Absolutely.
To the point that you can't make any money because you're protecting. So
that's what risk management comes to, right? So risk management is supposed to help you draw the balance, right? To balance your risk. and see what risk can I take on. Because you cannot say I'm going to secure myself and not take a risk. That is not realistic. Every organization, even the NSA, got hacked. So they accept, so even with them, they've accepted some level of risk which got exploited. So there is, you cannot say you are not going to take a risk, but then it's where do you draw a risk appetite, and that will drive what activities or what engagement you want or business you want to proceed on. So at the back of 2013, so the next cybersecurity framework was developed 2014. It was a back from the previous government, President Barack Obama's time. They enacted a cybersecurity, they signed into this executive order, cybersecurity executive order. So at the back of it, NIST developed this cybersecurity framework to ensure people are aligning with the executive order for cybersecurity for critical infrastructure within the country. So I think some of the discussion we've had aligns with what NIST framework, and then to your question on how do you manage cybersecurity. So this framework, and that's what most organizations now align their cybersecurity framework on the NIST framework. So it is not just about protect, right? So the framework starts with you identifying all your critical assets, identifying what business process is critical to me, risk rating them, identifying the exposure over there, and that is what the identifying piece is. Then it comes to protect. So my crown jewel is if it's a healthcare company, you have people's health records, and if that should get compromised, you know you're going to have HIPAA violation. There will be sued. There will be all that, and that will cost you significant amount of money. You want to focus your protect against that as well. What kind of data do you want to encrypt the data at rest? Do you even in transit? What kind of all these protections that you need to put there to protect the risk from manifesting is what the protect piece does.
Quick question for you. In your cybersecurity experience, which area is the hardest for you to experience to have a complete protection, if you will? In a sense, for example, in that protect area, you have access control, awareness training, data security, etc. Which part of that is the hardest part, and why do you think it is?
I think it's dynamic. Let me answer your question this way. The past years, the mitigating strategies organizations use for their controls shift depending on the threat that is out there, right? So I think now organizations are moving to endpoint protection, where the endpoints to the network is what they focused on, whilst previously 5 years ago it's around the network protection, right? So that is where the endpoint, we now look at the data at rest, it got to be encrypted, because you know that now your firewall is not just good enough. It's people just bypass it. So then it's dynamic, there's not static, so it depends on what time you're asking this question, it will change, because it's very dynamic space there. The threat, it depends on the threat out there. Like I said, risk is threat plus vulnerability. So if there's more threat on some aspect of access, then you need to focus more on that. It becomes challenging to deal with asset protection. Does that answer your question?
How about the people's aspect? Are people easier to convince nowadays
No,
than before?
it's about training, right? And again, to the same point, phishing emails are now getting complex. Like, I see some of the phishing emails, and with all my skill set and all my mindset, your first instinct is to even click it. Because they gather this information, and that's why they steal information, and like they steal your daughter, you know where the hospital your daughter attended, your daughter's doctor's name, they've gotten that, they know when your last appointment is, and if you get this email, hey, this is Dr. Renolds, I have your daughter's appointment coming out Tuesday, can you click and confirm that? It is so personal that your first instinct is to click it, right? So they're gathering all these images, making phishing exercise, but then organizations are spending a lot of time on that. Most organizations spend a lot of time, security conscious organizations, on phishing exercise training. They do monthly phishing tests to ensure people are passing, and they track it. I track it from organizations. So like people, and you can see the increase in the awareness now regarding that, but it's still the weakest point in cybersecurity.
Just the other side of the spectrum. For example, I deal a lot with people's financial information as well as having to enforce HIPAA. Now, for example, I now have to go and buy a new laptop in order to have all the security in there. And one of the recommendations is for me to go and pay for BDPA. Because now I'm responsible if I get a client's data and I'm supposed to transmit it immediately online, e-applications. But I'm now being responsible, or asked to be responsible for the security of the data from the time it leaves my laptop to do this. How can I, as an individual, how much money do I have?
You can add it to your bill.
So I'm like, okay. So now I have to be paying every month for VPN.
I agree.
And other encryption.
But have you thought about that? If there should be an incident, if you don't have this control in place, it will cost you more than that.
Yeah.
So you answer your question.
So
I'm stuck.
Well, the cost goes up every year. That's why I always think about where's the threshold. It's almost like, well, if you, this is impossible. If you could just move away from all of these attacks, like some people want to just cut everything off from the network. There's actually one of the writers who does this. He uses like an old 386 computer that's not connected to the network, so that people can't steal his work before he was ready to post.
even with that, you got to be mindful, because again, one of these conference, Black Hat or whatever, there was they stole the data from the micro transmission of data from the Wi-Fi transmission, even though the network was it was blocked off the internet. But the fact that there was a data transmission from keyboard, they were stealing these data from. And so again, with knowing all this, pretty much it's impossible to think that you can really protect yourself from this, unless you're not a target.
I think it's just the value of the data. Because
Absolutely.
if the value is worth $1 billion, you're going to have a lot more eyes on you, a lot more people trying to take that from you than if it's worth $100. If I'm scribbling my notes about this meeting, for instance, nobody would really care to take that. So they might not try as hard. Maybe. But I'm not taking a lot of notes. So. But if you do have, let's say, a book that's out and maybe that's going to break, that's going to bring out a new type of technology, then you might have a lot more people focused on breaking that.
The guy who did Game of Thrones, he was the one that does all this.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that would cost them a lot more money.
Again, if you looked at the Sony incident, I mean, it was movies that they lost a lot of money when those movies were stolen. So again, to your point, that is what risk assessment comes in, right? To say, where do I care about your notebook Scrabble? Maybe not, but I care about the intellectual, new movie that is coming out. I want to focus my risk on not somebody stealing this laptop that doesn't have no record on. But my work laptop is more, you get more from my work laptop than stealing my personal laptop, which doesn't contain anything. So these are some of the risk assessment. It's the same laptop, but their risk evaluation, one is higher than the other.
So as an individual, where do I go to get these tools? Some of the tools to protect myself, for example, go from Google. So before I expose myself,
A lot of people selling it, it's out there.
I think
One buy it.
the next way, after the detect piece is key to cyber. That answers your question where it's not about protecting anymore, it's about detecting if it happens. What kind of mechanism do I have? If an incident should happen, I should detect it within the next second.
Isn't that still reactive, even if it's a
It is,
microsecond?
but then it isn't better than not detecting it and people staying there forever and now. So
Yeah.
that is what it is. That's the reality. The reality is you're going to be breached. But how quickly can you
So
detect
now
it?
the thing is
The
about
timing you
mitigating
gotta-
damage, right?
Yes, it's about you having a playbook, just limiting the time. When they happen, you see them and you work around it.
Gotcha.
And then you respond, you have to have a response, an incident response plan, and communication analysis done, and recovery, how you recover after this. So this, most organizations now build their security, cybersecurity program around this framework. So we're going to go through risk, and again, I'm trying to go fast. I think I have like 2 minutes now, right?
Take 5.
I'll take 5. I think we should be good with 5.
Generous.
So the first thing is, for any organization, you got to say your risk appetite. Like, what is our risk appetite? What risk are we willing to take to do business? And based on that, you identify all your critical assets within the organization. If it's movies, if you write books, those are your key. If you pay people, HR, you probably don't, you want to protect it, but then it's not critical. It can go out, somebody can hack it, I don't care, but if they steal this intellectual property, this company is over, right? So you identify those critical business processes, identify the critical assets, and that is key. That is the identification part of risk management. Then after identifying these critical tools and assets and setting up your risk appetite, you now have to quantify your inherent risk of these various systems and processes that you identify. Now, inherent risk is the risk without any control in place. So you're looking at it from, Sonny, if somebody steals your movies, how much will it cost you? Don't assume that, oh, we have a firewall in place, I don't care about that. Or it's encrypted, so they cannot even decrypt it, so if they steal it, I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at what is the value of this data or system that you're protecting? Or this new medicine that you just went through your R&D, spend millions of dollars to come up with, if somebody steals it. What is the value of it to you without any control? There's 2 ways. You have the quantitative and qualitative methods. You have the quantitative one, you have to do the annual loss expectancy, and that is the cost of, if this risk should manifest, how much is it going to cost us a year? And the single loss expectancy is when an incident happens, how much is that single incident, how much is it going to cost? Rate of occurrence deals with what is the likelihood of that incident happen. If it's once every 10 years, the rate of occurrence is 1/10, then you divide it by that. And the exposure factor is, I have 100 million record. The exposure factor is, if this cyber incident should happen, I'll be exposed to 0.5 of the rep of the system. Right? The system costs 1 million, but I'm not going to, if there is a flooding, I'm not going to lose all the 1 million, I'm going to lose 50%. So the exposure factor just exposes what is the exposure to the whole system itself. Then when doing that, after that you do your evaluate your control environment. So my current control environment, if I have these record sensitive data, is it encrypted or it's not encrypted? Do we have access control or logical security to it? Is it firewalled out? Is the system segmented out, and all these great controls that you have in place? You look at those controls, and after that you identify your control gaps, right? So if you are a HIPAA, for instance, you're supposed to encrypt all these PIIs, all this health data, APHIs that you have. So if you don't have encryption at rest, for instance, it's a control gap, and or you don't have VPN, or you're not encrypting this data in transit or in the dedicated lines that exposes the data. It's not, or your password is weak. Then you identify all these controls. So out of these control environment, you evaluate whether your control is effective or not effective. Then you determine your residual risk. So your residual risk is considering the inherent risk as well as the control environment, and you come up with your residual risk. You bounce it off your risk appetite and say whether this is high or low or moderate. And based on that, that should drive where do I want to put my money, right? If it's low risk, do I want to spend money once I have 10 high risk systems that I should focus on? what most organizations don't do is they don't have this risk management process in place, so they just assume, oh, we need to protect our file, we need to have a perimeter firewall, and they just go and spend millions of money on it. But to be honest with you, that is not where their high risk is. Maybe their high risk is a data at rest, that they are not encrypted. That is maybe their firewall, they were fine. They had maybe 2 perimeter firewall tier network. They didn't need a third one whilst their data is not encrypted at rest. So it gives them the ability to really know where to prioritize or focus your efforts at. So identifying this risk, then you got to make a determination. What do I do with it? Right? You can avoid it. That is always an option. You can stop the business. Don't write no books. Nobody will steal it. So that is the risk avoidance. You can accept it and live with it. If someone steals with it, that's fine. But then if I'm lucky no one steals it, that is an option available
So
to you.
that's have to be his option.
That is his option. He has the option available.
You need to be able to recover. I mean, if somebody wipes you out, you need to have a way of recovering. And usually, if you're small, you just don't have that much money. So you back up. So you may have firewalls that if anything else happens.
Yeah, and so that is a strategy. You can have a plan again to when I walk through the next cybersecurity field, you have the recovery part of it, right? You respond, then you recover. You can reduce the risk. You can again put these controls not to totally eliminate the risk, but you can make it difficult for that risk to manifest. That is an option for you, or you can transfer it. If you know you live in a floody area and you feel like you want to live there, but then looking at the cost involved, it should happen is hundreds of thousands of your house value. You want to take an insurance, right? So the insurance company will cover that because you don't want to bear that risk. So these are the mitigation strategy for risk. You have to determine it. Again, to my point, strong. I want us to move to being proactive in dealing with cyber than being reactive. I know it's difficult, but for us to be successful, we need to be proactive. At least try to move towards being proactive than being reactive. And with this strategy, and most organizations that really do these risk management, have this risk management program in place, it's cost effective. It helps them prioritize their business. And to be honest with you, risk management does not generate money, but it saves you costs right down the line. So that is where you draw the line. I don't think my role at FitTech generates FitTech any money. However, it is critical because if they should lose me or lose the security team, the company probably will not exist anymore.
How are they? I know we just kind of work for a big company. It's this thing about budget, and even though something is needed, it's still a big sell.
Yeah.
Maybe not now, but when I was working.
So the sweet thing about cybersecurity, which again we talked about it being in the news. If you talk to any CI, ask him one thing that keeps him apart. He'll tell you cybersecurity. Like I've been to CIOs, talked to a lot of them. Anytime I get an opportunity, I ask them that question.
So it's kind of like, what do you need?
So
it's like, what do you need?
Now they know it. They know they don't want to go to sit in front of Congress to tell them how come you didn't do that, right? They know it. This is expensive and it can cost them. So the awareness is there. We got to continue preaching it and again being proactive and tackling these bad actors out there. I think that's all. Any questions?
I have a question. From your professional experience, maybe from training and such, what is the most sophisticated / amazing attack that you've heard that made you say like, wow, that's incredible they did this?
I think you mentioned success is always going to be up there. Yeah. Like it's sophisticated. Like it is about the malware itself. I do malware analysis, and if you look at the malware itself, it's been years and it's amazing. WannaCry again, it's a web type attack, so the risk was more, it was propagating on itself without any intervention. So that made it more, that's how the weapon of malware, of that particular attack is. But the malware, like if you look at how the malware is working, it's so simple, basic stuff that were put together, but they made it more for web. So there are a lot of them out there. But I think if you ask me, I think Stuxnet, I've not seen anything like Stuxnet.
Yeah, very quickly, what do you think is the future of cryptocurrency like Bitcoins in the world, since you work for the bank, and then as bank cybersecurity personnel in a bank, what is a more critical asset for you guys? Is that the customer's personal information, PII, or the money itself? Because people want their money and their personal information.
It's both. So it's of course I think our crown jewelry is going to be people's record, right? We have GLBAs that we need to adhere to, and again we have the money itself, of course, but it's that risk manifesting people going, and it's a stretch, but it can happen. There's been a the Swift transmission attack that happened. There are a few of them that happen, but then it's pretty much around ensuring people, securing people's records. It's more than the risk.
We'll do just two more questions.
I'm not sure, I think that's first.
Oh, okay. Mine is really not a question, more or less an appeal. It's particularly directed to yourself, Brenda and Janice, working together with Renolds here, giving this presentation again from a different perspective, from the perspective of opportunities for young people, because this thing cut across all levels. And I think our young people can really dip their teeth into this and see for them and see themselves becoming expert in that area.
Absolutely.
So if you can maybe presentation geared towards those young kids, even high school kids, for us to generate their interest in this, because I think it's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a good comment.
I can make it happen.
Great.
I just need somebody willing to do it, so.
January.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just had a quick question, well, maybe not so quick, but when you think of the cybersecurity world, so that's something that's always interested me, but I have absolutely zero interest in becoming a programmer. I really don't. I'm more of a functional analyst and stuff like that. So is there a place for people who don't want to look at lines of code?
She's not looking at it.
No.
Well, but I mean, but you need to be able to understand, like, you know, so
No,
understand.
I have that skill set already. I
Yeah.
think I get that question a lot. What the cyber space is so broad, there's different skill sets, and so with my role being a risk, I literally speak to almost all the functions in cybersecurity, right? The architects, the programmers, the application developers, like the vulnerability management team, so the change management. So I speak because of risk in the whole IT and cyberspace. So I cut across. So you look at my role as jack of nothing, expert of nothing, but know everything. Like I can speak to everything you get in cyber, but technically I don't need a specialized skills set for one. But because of my educational background and my experience, I tend to know more of a few of them into detail.
I'll
So
check.
it doesn't, you don't need, like, cyber risk is not, you're not reviewing code. You're doing risk assessment, right? The likelihood, understanding what is without, you don't have to review code. I've interviewed folks that they have a risk background and they're interested in cyber, so they just switch that. With time, you just pick some of these stuff out.
We could go on and on, and since I haven't had a chance to ask a question, I just thought of
Sorry.
something. So when you're doing your risk analysis, you use software, I take it, to analyze that, or do you, how do you analyze?
So there are two types doing risk. So you have the quantitative and the qualitative. I think I talked about it. So the qualitative is more based on my experience. I can tell you, give you the risk without going through a methodology. Whilst you can go through a methodology of doing the inherent risk where you look at the single loss of expectancy of a system. You have a system that if it goes down, it's going to cost you, these are records that are data available, so it's going to cost you $50. or let's say $1,000, then you look at what is the frequency of it failing within a year, or even if I use the record, it's going to cost $1,000. What's the likelihood of this happening? If it's once a year, once every 10 years, you can use that. That is the annual rate of occurrence. They are. So when you get the annual rate of occurrence, the exposure factor, and you look at the exposure factor, the system is 1,000. If it should get breached, will it cost me all the $1,000? Then the exposure factor is 1. So then it's everything. So then if it's less than that, it's 0. Assuming it's 50%, it's 0.5. So you can calculate it, saying if the system should go down, it's supposed to cost me half of it. So it's not going to cost me $500 instead of $1,000. Then you look at the annual rate of, then if it's the same, like this again, it happens every year, then it's 1. So then your value of this risk of this happening will be 500. Now, if I should put a control in place, the control is going to cost me $2,000. Is it worth you doing that? Whilst if the risk will cost you 500, right? So then you make the determination and say, well, it's not worth it. Then I'm going to accept the risk, or go sign up for an insurance company to insure it for less and manage the risk that way. So there is a methodology to calculate the risk as well.
Well, I know folks are anxious to talk with you. I just wanted to take a moment to our appreciation.
Oh, thank you.
Certificate, and we can't pay you, but we do appreciate your coming out this evening. So there's a token of our appreciation.
Thank you.
And we'd love to have you back.
I'll be glad to be back, and I think I'll join the. I might. I think I like the group, so you probably will see me more face again.
We would
And
very welcome that.
When we start the computer camp, you would be a good person to talk to the kids at lunch. We have new times.
Yeah, I'll be glad to know.
All right, so that winds up the program. Frank probably has some closing remarks, but please make sure that you sign the sign-in sheet. There are some surveys. We'd love to hear your feedback on the session tonight, as well as any other topics that you'd be interested in. And please, there's a few hors d'oeuvres back there and some drinks.
I move that we give our presenter a hands of applause.
Okay, Frank, did you have any other words? If not, folks can
Wait a
network.
minute. I have to have some words, but I will limit my words. First thought is that it's a great presentation, and as someone who has stuff connected to the internet, a lot of stuff, my risk is off the chart. Of course, when you're a small timer, you have to look at what risk you can take. And in my case, a lot of times I have to start over. I remember the servers that the kids are on all the time, and they can do a lot of stuff on it. But I got bit by one of those malware things where they encrypt the whole thing, and then they ask for $800 ransomware, $800 in Bitcoin. So I rebuilt the server. I have most of it backed up anyway, but I didn't even know how to pay them, and I wouldn't pay them if I knew around. But this is good stuff, and I guess I really especially see it for larger organizations that can't afford to take the risk. The hard thing is though, if you mom and pop kind of thing, you can still do things, but you can't afford him. There was something else that I picked up too. It's about the coding thing. You're gonna have to get over that. Most people don't do a lot of coding anymore, but it's good to kind of know how it goes, which is why we do a lot of this with kids. Most of them are not going to grow up. They're going to be engineers. They're not going to write a lot of code, but when you get to college and as you get into jobs like him, it's just good to have that in your background. It doesn't blow you away when people start talking about it, different languages and different operating systems and all that kind of stuff. I'm really kind of into the controls and operating systems and that kind of stuff. Internet of Things. My sump pump is on the web. I don't know how you get hacked. I have my garage is actually still on the web. You might be able to hack that. I don't think you'd be able to hack the sump pump. But no, it's one way. It's one way. It doesn't listen. It doesn't listen.
It doesn't listen?
It just tells. But you know, I like this stuff on the whole. We've had some great meetings this year. Thank you, Brenda. And you know, I look forward to having a lot of you being engaged as members, because Janice is kind of energized the bunny in terms of getting things done. We have a lot of projects planned, and we need people to help with them. We also need your money for membership, because we had to pay for places like this. And thank you all for coming out. It's been fun.
Thank you.